try it now?
Okay, yeah, we got it. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Okay.
So is it recording on your side?
Okay. Today we have 4 agenda. 那个谁帮忙把这个地方转一下。
So this is lyyn.
Today we have 4 things that we need to talk about. One is
Okay.
We want to learn how to improve on the content of our leadership folder.
The evidence.
Yeah.
Oh, student leadership
folder. Yeah.
Okay.
That's number 1. And then the second one is because we've been doing this for 4 years, 5 years now. So we want to upgrade our staff training. Staff training.
Okay, great.
On leadership program, staff training on leadership program. Okay, and the third one is the Leader in Me 3.0 content and the schedule. And then the last one is your ideas and suggestions on our May 1st Leadership Day. Those are the 4 things.
Okay, we have a lot then. I think we can cover some of these tonight, and we'll have to set up another call because there's a lot here. What is your top? I'm wondering if we need to start here so that you understand 3.0, or do you have another one that's which one of these is urgent for you? Okay. Okay, great. So I'm going to try to pull some Chinese content as well. So I will blend. So we're going to start with leadership notebooks. Let me see. Does simplified Chinese work if I use simplified Chinese?
Yes.
Okay. It's easy to read. Easy for you to read or not?
Well, traditional will be better, but if you don't have traditional version, then we'll do our best to figure out what that means.
Okay, I will put it in English and simplified. I don't have traditional on my computer right now.
Okay, sure.
But I will work to get that for you, okay?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let me see if I can split screen a little bit. So this is the English version of the 3.0 framework, okay? And I think I shared this with some of you previously. So let me show it in, let me see if I've got the Chinese version. Which is easier to read for you? The simplified Chinese or the English?
Chinese.
Okay. So you can see on the left, this will say see, do, and get. The paradigms, the practices, and then the results. So I share this with you so as I start using new language, for like you, I'm bringing you into the 3.0 world better. So over here, it should say student leadership notebooks. Probably right there, I believe that's what that says, and 8.2. Okay. So the first thing, so as we talk about topics, so that I can blend your need for 3.0 understanding, the newest materials, newest model, as we talk about topics that you want to coach the school on, I'll bring it into 3.0 so that you get both at the same time. Sound good?
Okay.
Okay. So 3.0. Go ahead.
然后它会跟什么？跟这个3.0的这个检核的事情啊，
怎么样去做，然后怎么样去得到这个结果，然后怎么样检核，然后在同一个时候做。Okay, got you. Go on, please.
Okay. So just so we notice that so what you'll see at the top are 5 core paradigms, which were being much more explicit, much more upfront, explaining the paradigms and mindset of the work, which you would not have received.
最前面那上面那个5个啊，现在我先一面讲，你们等一下要再回忆。前面这个5个啊，就是我们那个这个叫 paradigm 叫什么？就是说那个，哎，对，那5个啊，就是可以改变你的一个观感的那个 paradigm， 前面就是那个5个。
Okay. And so then the key practices here is the intention that we use the practices in order to get results in these areas. So, right?
最重要的就是说要去运用，从练习当中才可以得到这个结果。
Okay. So let's start with leadership notebooks. We'll just stay there. That the goal of leadership notebooks, I'm going to pull up a module in in simplified Chinese for now. And if you believe it will be better to work with English, I'll pull up the English. Let me find 8.2. Yeah. Okay. And I'll try to mirror it in English and in, it's coming. So when you work with your leader, what are you already currently doing with your leadership notebooks? What do you have in those binders for the children?
谁讲？你说在 binder 里。对，现在就是
我们现在有那个学生的自己的领导角色，就是学生姐，对，
What do you call them?
The leadership role inside the notebook. The weeks, we have weeks. The follow-up charts.
What's a follow-up chart?
The follow-up chart, measure the measurement of their week.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you. Yeah.
Emotional bank. Okay. Emotional bank. And their talents. There's yeah. And then parents feedback. Parents feedback.
Great. And what do you consider to be the strength of the notebooks for how you're using it? Well, actually, let me ask this. How often are students using the notebooks?
We actually do it whenever we have any
Can you use the microphone?
Yeah, I
Sorry.
that we actually using it on a daily basis. Whenever we have any report, we just insert the paper into the folder. And during the teacher-parent conference, we will organize it and have the students explain to the parents at the conference.
So who's inserting the papers?
是谁放那个 paper 进去？ Yeah, students do it.
Okay, by students. And are the students working with all the pieces on their own? They're setting the wigs, they're reflecting. Is that all student driven, or do the teachers own it?
小朋友他们自 beginning of this semester, the whole class would discuss about the classrooms weeks or some work that they will do together. They talk about that part first. So for that part, they would do it together in the classroom, class time. Then the rest of the voters, students will do it by themselves. 对不对？对对。
At all grades?
所有年级都这样。哦，你的年级的 ，OK， 哦，一年就比较简单，老师知道。Okay, she is teaching the sixth grade, so sixth grade students are doing, yeah, by themselves. But lower grade, 哪一个？一二年级。With lower grade students, students with more help from the teachers.
Okay, of course, yeah. And what would you say, and so how often are the parents doing the student conferences? How often is that happening? Where the children share?
Parents come to school once a semester for teacher-parent conference. 对不对？家长是一次来嘛？那你平常还有机会跟家长看到这个本子，期末的时候。
Mm.
Actually, they bring the notebook back home several times because they need parents' feedback. So they bring the notebook back.
That's this part here. Okay. Okay. So if you were to say, we use a term called plus delta often, where to say plus, what do we celebrate that's going well? Delta, where do you feel it needs to grow? If just your impressions overall. So if we were to say plus, Ari, what do you celebrate? What is working? What is working? What do you like about what yours is already doing? You can all there's no right or wrong answer. You can just give ideas. What do you believe is working?
Yeah, 那这样子孩子就已经有反应了。我们庆祝呢，庆祝其他人也庆祝。你讲的太多了，我都没办法再庆祝。这是什么庆祝 ？Party 吗？打球还是阅读？ 就是问你们是什么时候让孩子 Yeah, good. Okay. They are saying it's the goal setting that can really motivate them move forward. And then
Motivates the students or motivates the staff?
motivate the students.
Okay.
The scoreboard, the week. Yeah. So they do celebrate by giving them a party, a time period for a sports event, playing games, or a treat of pizza.
Okay.
Well, these are the ways they celebrate their they have achieved to certain level.
In this, you're saying that the 40 the Whigs process and the celebration is what's motivating them.
That's right. Yeah, in the process.
Okay.
Actually, our Chinese teacher just also said that it's not just the celebration, but then also when they can see their improvement on the scoreboard, also motivates them to because they set a goal themselves, and then they are continuously reaching the goal. Because the progress, they can see the growth, and so that also motivates the kids. For grade 6 students, they do find ownership when they
Great.
the fruit of their learning. Yeah.
Excellent. So they're recognizing that their personal effort is making a difference in their achievement.
Yes.
Okay. So you don't have students who are frustrated by the book or about the leadership notebook. Okay. What evidence?
Yes.
Go ahead.
The Chinese teacher just shared that yes, actually we do have some kids that do feel frustrated with the notebook, and that's why the peers, the group work is quite important for them, and so that they can encourage by their classmates as well.
Make sure.
Also, because the parents can also support them to encourage them to keep going, to continue. Yeah.
Okay, so I hear you saying that there are, of course, some students that struggle, and that the parents and other students are collaborative in helping others.
Yes. Both students and parents. Peers and parents.
Okay. Okay. Is there what do you as the adults see the benefit to the students that makes this worth investing in? What is the benefit in your mind? And what's the evidence of that benefit? Have you seen an increase? You've seen an increase in student motivation, clearly, and that's a benefit. Are there any other benefits besides the WIG process? Any other benefits you all see? Or are we good?
The benefits they see among the students is students do help each other, and they have better interactions. And they would
Okay, wonderful. Okay,
This is Chen. But the
yeah, please.
also having a clear goal. Does
Ah, powerful, okay.
to know what they are doing and to visualize, what they are working on.
Ah, yeah, the metacognition, right?
Yeah, and make it short is they have a more clear mind every day coming to school. They know what they should do by themselves without told all the time.
Okay, so you're seeing then, I'm hearing that they're, it's creating clear direction and focus,
Yes,
and it's supporting, supporting independence
yes.
and ownership of learning.
要做力。
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so now from your perspective, Delta simply means what would you like to improve, or are there areas of challenge? Before I teach you on the 3.0, right, module part on this, is there anything that you already know you're saying, this is an area of struggle for us, or this is an area we think we should improve? And maybe there's none, that's okay. But what do you see as a potential area for improvement in it?
他的意思就是说，我们还可以做什么更好，做什么改善？那或者说我们有碰到什么样一些很挑战的问题解决不了，但是什么或者说很卡住的地方，我们希望或者当回来我们需要的改善，或者是我们希望能够更好，更怎么样帮助孩子能够学习，他的方式和其他的事情，这是关于资料夹的。好，但是我们现在已经直接把学校，那我们的资料夹呢，也希望让它只是在这些可以达到我们说的精进或者是永续的这些后面的这两个阶段，就已经our challenge now is we want to improve, but we don't know what to improve to help our kids to learn better. Am I making sense to you?
Yeah, you're not seeing any problems with your current leadership notebook. You're not struggling with anything. You're just saying, where can we go next?
That's right. 那现在就是大家都不觉得现在我们做的这个 leadership 就有困难，有没有？我觉得可以提出来，我觉得要记得这样的方式，量化它有办法。
Okay.
Yvonne is saying that is there other way we can use to measure other than using scoreboard, measure our students' improvement or growth?
Well, okay. Okay, so let me, I'm going to add that to the questions list to come back to, because that's specific to WIGS discussion. And I want to start with the bigger picture on your notebooks, and then we can drill down to WIGS, okay? Okay. Okay, great. So I will promise to come back to that question. What I'd like to do is give you some direct teach now. I'd like to just share with you overall new ideas on leadership notebooks. Now, again, now this is simplified Chinese. Is it comfortable to work with, or would you like me to use English?
So far, it's okay.
I will speak in English too. Yeah, and I'll work to get the modules in traditional Chinese. So in the process now, so we officially, so you'll know, we officially call them leadership notebooks, with the intention leadership notebooks is on purpose, that name, to say to children, the purpose of this notebook is to really help you learn to lead your own life and reflect on your growth as a leader. So that's the purpose of that notebook. So,
Pause a little bit.
sure.
他刚才就是讲说这个 leadership notebook 呢，其实真正的用意啊，就是让我们不只是现在做学生了，这一辈子的 lifetime 都可以用，是让自己可以有一直看前面的事情，然后让自己然后有趣，真的不是在做，不是说做学生。对，其实他对这领导的能力就是一辈子都可以带着走的，哎，对，就一直就是他已经有这么好的习惯，
Okay. So as we work together, you can see when we started talking, I was working over here on this idea of reflection. This is just a learning and implementation cycle. Right. So our goal for continuous improvement together, so we said, okay, we're going to focus on leadership notebooks, and we were doing some reflection on that. Now I'm going to give you some new learning, give you ideas and new learning that you can then make an action plan of what you'd like to do before we finish the topic, right? So just sharing with you, that's where I am with showing that we're here on the 3.0 framework. I won't spend our time on any videos, but here's where I want us to think about. So when you are implementing the leadership notebooks, there are 4 areas of focus. Okay, one here, the focus. So what should you do with leadership notebooks? This is our newer content. One, you want to make sure that we communicate the purpose of this notebook to faculty, children, and parents. The second one is to consider using 5 common sections. Then establish accountability partners and meeting times, and ensure student ownership. Now, some of this you already do. So our goal will be to look at some new ideas and then say what else you want to do. All right?
Can you tell us the number 2? You say the 5 common sections.
Consider using 5 common sections. Mm-hmm.
What are the 5 common sections?
Yeah, so I'm going to take you through each one of these. Okay? Great. Now, again, is it easier with the simplified Chinese or English? Chinese. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's go through these. I will walk you through each one. Okay? So first, my computer's thinking. So first is just the purpose, is making sure that everyone, and I think you do already know this, right? That the purpose of the notebook is a personalized tool to empower ownership for the children to reflect and grow as individuals. It includes items like their learning and qualities, reflections on goals, celebrations. Now, this is what might be new to you. Many of our schools now are having leadership notebooks done for adults as well, as a way for the adults to use a leadership notebook just like the children and to model that learning.
When you say adults, you mean parents and teachers?
The teachers, yeah, the educators. Yeah, so this practice came out of Guatemala. Down in Guatemala, our schools started having adults do the leadership notebook with the children of their own, so that they could have the same level of engagement?
We also do.
You do?
Yeah, teacher also have a leadership notebook.
I should have asked. Do you guys, does it match the children's?
他说老师做的是不是跟学生可以 match？ 可以的，我的班级 Yeah, the teacher have their class goal, their
That's right.
yeah.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, then the newest part then, here are the 5 sections, and I will walk you through examples. This might give you just some ideas to take away and add to what you already do. So the 5 sections, myself, my wigs you already have, my learning, my leadership, and my celebrations. Pieces of this you have. You may find some ideas that you haven't thought of. So let's look at the first section, myself. This section's purpose is to really help everyone on a strategic way. And I think you already cover talents, right, in your notebooks. And in this myself section, annually having everyone reflect on their interests, their family, their friends, their people who they feel are great leaders. They might put their personal mission statement. They might reflect on the 7 habits here, how well they're doing, how well they're growing. They might put a class of their school or their class mission statement inside this section.
Can you say again for the last 2?
This one here, personal reflections of the 7 habits.
Oh, personal reflection.
Yeah. And mission statements.
So the personal reflection is basically the reflection from the students, right?
Yes,
they reflect their own.
It's really reflecting on themselves as a person and growing. So if they annually do a section called Myself, where they are adding their interests and hobbies, it could be talents and strengths. They're adding their family photos, their friends. They might identify people who are favorite leaders, people who they admire. And then from this, they create their mission statement that it allows them to annually reflect on who they are and what they're becoming. And that refreshing of the personal mission statement. So let's take a look at a few examples. Sorry, I've got this going in English too. So here's just the idea of that section that's identifying interests and talents and hobbies, strengths. So here you can see, this is an example of people setting a collage, the kids collaging. Okay. This is just, and again, forgive me, you may already do some things that are like this. These are just more examples of just giving the children voice, ideas on what they want to do and making it their own. You already do mission statements, correct? Personal mission statements? And they put it in a leadership notebook? Okay. That's just another example of a personal mission statement. Let me see what this one, I'm sorry, I keep having to go back and forth between Chinese and English. Oh, and then of course the classroom mission statement. Are all of your classes developing a class mission statement with the children's voice in the class mission statement? Or do the teachers just make the mission statement?
For upper grade, yes, but not for lower grade.
Okay. So the key for your class mission statements is to find ways for children to collaboratively make the mission statement together. Even the little ones having a voice in developing the class mission statement. You can go more on that later. So just the overall section here, do you have anything in your notebooks currently that's like this section, the myself section?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
What do you call that what do you call that section?
About me. Usually the first section is always about me, like their family, their talent, their those things that you mentioned.
Great. So then you're in the same, it's the same idea, myself section. Does that change every year? Do they refresh that every year?
Yeah. Every year, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, and then my wig section, you have a part on my wigs altogether. So you know the purpose of this. What kind of wigs do your children make? Just academic, or do they also do personal?
Both academic and personal.
Okay, great. Then the only thing I think that would be helpful to you is seeing, let me put it in English on this one. There have been created some wig sheets, 4 disciplines of execution sheets. We have some sheets that put all on one page, all 4 disciplines, so the children can see the lead measure, the goal plus their strategy plus their scoreboard, which I can send you samples to look at to see if it's something that will help adjust how you want to do your scoreboard sheets at all.
Because the yeah, we might need you to send it to us because it's not easy to read on the screen.
Yes, yes, I understand. So do your little ones your youngest ones do wigs as well, and do they draw what their goals are?
Is this part of the scoreboard, like the one right now, the one that you're showing us? Is that also counted as a scoreboard, or it just like?
This one here is just a small child, very small, saying, "My personal goal is," and in this case, she wanted to learn to ride a bike. So this is a little one drawing what their goal was, and then the teacher helping them write it. So it's showing here just different ways the little ones are writing their wig.
Let's go back to the previous page. The execution forms. Can we see that?
Okay.
Can we use that as a scoreboard? This execution forms.
So when you say the scoreboard challenge, tell me more about, like, are you doing scoreboards that look like this?
Yeah. Yes.
Are they all the same for every child in every class?
Yes. Almost. Very similar.
So you're basically, so when you're asking about scoreboarding, you're saying, well, we're kind of getting tired of the same scoreboard.
Sorry, we missed your question.
So what is your challenge with the scoreboard? What is your...
Getting bored, right? Yeah, they are getting tired of keep using the same scoreboard every year. Well, as a teacher.
Okay, so I think what we'd have to do is look at those, and I would suggest that if you so the teachers haven't designed any new ones, or they haven't had the children design any new ones?
No, they have not designed any new ones. They either use 什么样子 scoreboard? Bar graph, line graph. Well, yeah. Basically, they are just tired of using the same.
Yeah. So then,
Here.
yeah, then my suggestion to you would just say, okay, what else would you like to do? How else? As long as they're living the 4 disciplines, they set the wig, the lead, the scoreboard, and the celebrations. It doesn't matter what the sheet looks like, as long as the principles are being lived. So
只要我们把那个4个原则、4个内容通通放在上面，都有。然后那个4个原则，你就是先设计一个立项，怎么样子去执行，然后结果是什么，然后你怎么样去对不对？那你把它这个，只要你这4个原则在都有在表现在你的工作上，就可以做。
yeah,
So it's
my
yeah, we design our own scoreboard, right? Not
my suggestion is that you unleash their creativity
oh,
and so rather than having one way, allow the teachers to create their own design and style and unleash their creativity, which I'm not sure if that's something you're willing to do, but ideally they need to have fun with it as well.
okay, we will start collaborating. Yeah, we will start trying to work that out with students.
Yeah, allow them to. So, for example, in this one, which I know is hard to see, this is a younger one, and I have some other ones. The scoreboard is blank because they're allowed to create their own.
这也是一个 scoreboard，这是空白的，那学生就要自己做自己的，那他就看他自己用什么样子的方式来 evaluate 他自己，好不好？
Does that make so?
这是一个很好的对，这很好的一个意义就是 scoreboard。
Okay. So first thing is, as long as they're living the principles, and we can get lots of examples to show you on another coaching call, but what you really want to do is allow them to come up with ideas, or allow the children to come up with ideas. Okay. Okay. Any other questions on that for now? Because I can send you these sheets. I can send the sheets over to you. But I think it's also more about unleashing their ideas. Okay. I mean, last time I was in Taiwan, I saw scoreboards, not inside the notebooks, but outside, like in the hallways and such, where the children designed scoreboards using Legos. The children designed scoreboards using music instruments. They were very, very creative, which I can make on another call. We could put together. I can show you lots of examples where they allowed creativity. Okay.
This can be one of the agendas we can discuss. The scoreboard design with the
Yeah. Right, exactly. Just allow them to get together in a meeting, have ideas, share. Yeah. And are you scoreboarding just in the notebooks, or are you also scoreboarding for class goals or other things in the school?
Yes, we have individual scoreboard, we have class scoreboard, and we also have whole grades and departments.
Great. That's another place you want to get creative every year and turn some of that over to the children to design creative ideas, and then you're fostering creativity. Okay. Let's jump to the next. Is that enough for now on that, or do you want to? Is that okay? Can we move on to the next section? Okay, great. So your next section, and we call My Learning, I think you do a lot of these pieces, but I'm not sure. This is a place that teachers choose to track other pieces of learning. You know, tracking report card progress, using progress in special classes, math facts, scoreboards, vocabulary quizzes, career or life and university planning records or reflections, so for older children. So this is more about all of the other stuff that you want to put in for the parents to see and for the children to reflect on. Great. And any questions on that?
Are you talking about step training now? Oh, my learning. Okay. I'm sorry. Forget.
Yeah, that was the My Learning section of the notebook. So that's the idea of My Learning section of the notebook. Then the next section of the notebook, just really quickly, is, wait, we missed my leadership. Yeah, my leadership section. This is just where you already do many of these things. You have a list of leadership roles fulfilled, 7 habits resources, reflection on how they apply the 7 habits, journal responses. This is all about a place for them to think about their growth as a leader with the 7 habits, how they're learning the 7 habits, along with how they apply and contribute as a leader in their leadership roles. I think you have pieces of this, you just may not put it in a section called that.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Okay.
OK， 第3题啊，它这个英文上面 journal such as how I am a leader， 就是它现在重点要放在它这个所谓的醒思啊，就是回顾醒思，让你回顾一下，在你这个学习引导力的过程当中。其实对他看来，他讲的话是一个你要是一个教育原则，这个日记里面呢，就是要常常要问自己，常常我也没做到这个，我也没做到，我也没做到，就是我的7个好习惯里面，对不对？日常的对。
They are saying that actually we do have it and but then they actually wrote it in the communication book. Communication book is something that we have in Taiwan, something that they reflect every day, but they have a section to in the communication book that writes about that, but then they don't really put it in the folder.
So are you guys deciding, just discussing what this section's purpose is, and did you make some decisions?
Yeah, they were trying to understand and then how, and then trying to reflect,
Great.
apply, or how to incorporate. So,
Yeah, I see. Yep. Do you need more time?
no, we're fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. So now I'll take you to, then you already know about this section quite well. My celebrations. Let me pull it up in English as well. A lot of people don't have this section inside notebooks. They might do celebrations, but they don't have it inside notebooks. Any questions on the celebrations part? Okay. Okay, so the celebration sections, just so you think about how important it is for the children to have this section and reflect on it, so that they can see that it's a way for their own EBA, right? So, right. Let me just see if I have any other. Okay. I think I want to just check for ideas for you. Okay. So when you create the leadership notebooks, okay, you already have them created. You already have this figured out. Oh, so can you talk to me about your accountability partners with your notebooks? How do you use accountability partners? Meaning, where's the Chinese? Da, 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 da. Okay. How do you use accountability partners? Do you have them yet in classrooms? Mm.
What is accountability partner?
Okay. The idea of an accountability partner is so much like when they take their leadership notebook and they meet with their parents, that's accountability. But an accountability but an accountability partner is another peer that they can reflect with their leadership notebooks with. It can be peers, student mentors, teachers, family members. And the goal is that it's someone that they can share their wig with, how well they're doing, reflecting on their notebook. The goal is like, so if I'm a teacher and I have leadership notebooks in my classroom, or the kids are doing wigs, some teachers will on a Friday afternoon or Friday morning allow the kids to meet with like someone they're paired with as an accountability partner, to reflect on their growth as a leader, reflect on their wig, so that they're getting that reflection more often. But it's typically peer. It's just an area you can consider.
伴的关系，因为你也在对一个比较，那他也是个本人，这个人也是一个本人。对，像这个家长就变成是，就是不要讲，对，他就是所以他现在的这个那个想法就是说找一个时间，对啊，他的他是我们可以利用周三跟周五的时候。Okay, thank you. We are learning.
Any questions?
No, actually.
Any questions on that?
No, we are actually learning new thing and then trying to find time to do what you suggest.
Now, it's only ideas. You don't have, there's no have to in this, right? It's just ideas that you can consider. Now, this one is all about student ownership. It's saying, I just want you to reflect and ensure that you have student ownership.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm just checking if there's anything else you would need to know. Okay. Now here is a key element. When you do the leadership notebooks, you want to ensure that this is the 3.0 evaluation on it. So what I just showed you, let me pull to this. So when we just looked at, this was all the things that you consider doing, right? You make sure you do these pieces. That is what you do in 3.0. Then this rubric shows you how well. So we now have a rubric that's part of the Lighthouse review process for every effective practice. Okay? So student, no, let's do my conferences, hold on. Yeah. So student leadership notebooks, right? When you go for another Lighthouse review or when you're reflecting yourself, you will look to achieve at here. You want to get to this level. No evidence all the way up to here. So when you're being evaluated, again, we'll get this to you in Chinese. This is what you make sure you have implemented, the practices we just went through. This is how well you've implemented it. So on a Lighthouse review, this is what you'll be evaluated against, is the rubric.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So did you receive this Lighthouse rubric?
Yes.
Okay. So and if we can get in the traditional Chinese, we'll get it to you. But just knowing that when you're looking at your leadership notebooks in the process, you want to reflect on this sheet. And that's where you show evidence of that growth. Okay, so let's pause a second then and just say, all right, you're doing a lot already with leadership notebooks. Did you gain ideas on what else you could do?
From today's meeting, yes. Before today's meeting, we were kind of stuck.
Okay. Do you feel you have enough ideas for leadership notebooks for now?
Chinese teacher right now is just saying that sometimes she has some ideas, but then she doesn't know if it's following the rubric, is following the she's not sure of if she's meeting the expectation that the rubric says. And so she's a big concern to add her own things in, but then not meeting the expectation, not meeting the requirement of the rubric.
Yeah. Well, so first thought, there's no right or wrong. The only requirement on the rubric is really that you're doing these pieces. That's it. So if you choose, how you choose to do it is up to you. So so it is okay to come up with, it's okay to come up with new ideas.
就像我们讲空气、水、这个阳光，这是人把持住第三，他就是讲这四个都要把持住的原则，所以这个做法我们去创意，希望那回顾的方式，现在听来他今天讲的很多来说，就是想自己还要从中文上来讲，常常会回想自己，回顾自己，日子，检讨自己，回想。那在这个单纯上面，这是一样的四个就可以。主要的就是。Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So so I want to make sure you're clear. It's okay to come up with ideas, to be innovative, to be creative. That's okay. No problem. So here's what I'd like you to do as a team before now is make some commitments on leadership notebooks to say, I'm going to make sure I put this in English as well so you can see it. Okay. So what I'd like you to do as a team right now is make some commitments and ideas that just basically what you plan to do, what do you want to do differently? Come up with your ideas about what you would like to do on Leadership Notebook. So before we leave to right now, this team, make decisions. What would you like to commit to planning and doing to improve Leadership Notebooks?
Everyone choose one or what?
No, what you really do is you don't have to what I really just want you to say as a team, since you have new learning now, what would you want to do? Just list your ideas to say, so for example, what do you want to change or add to your notebooks? Like, what are your action steps that, based on leadership notebooks, what do you all agree you want to do moving forward? You don't have to do it. You just have to say, what do we want to do? Like, for example, we shared the 5 common sections. Yours is not labeled in 5 common sections. You have different labels. Do you want to keep your labels the way they are? Would you like to revise it? Is there a section you'd like to add? So I'd just like you to list, what would you like to do differently? What are you committing to? By what time?
one of our Chinese teachers just said that they earlier we mentioned that a lot of things they are doing already, like academic things that they are doing, were not actually included in the leadership folder, and then they recorded somewhere else, and so she is saying that she can integrate those two, and like by subject, like math, Chinese, and each subject, that she can have like a more comprehensive extended academic goal or scoreboard to be kept in the leadership notebook.
Is that so? That's something you want to discuss in his idea to say, is it good to expand the notebook or not? Right, to say, because you also don't want it to get too thick. So
yeah.
So if it meets your purposes, great. Okay. So I think what I have to have you guys say is, based on leadership notebooks, decide as a team what you're agreeing you want to do. What do you want to do differently now that you've had new learning that you all will agree to as the ideas that we'll write here, to say, what do you want to do now with your notebooks based on the new learning? So you gave me the example that one would like to combine the academic folders into the notebook. Is that something you all agree to or not agree to?
She's just sharing her personal idea.
Oh, an idea. Okay, so I would like you guys to discuss for a while, based on all the new learning you just had, what are the ideas, what are the things you want to act on, but what are you going to do after this call with leadership notebooks? What are your good ideas from what you just learned? So you can brainstorm, and then we'll make some commitments together.
Reflection part. Something we want to spend more time on. Reflection part.
Ah, okay.
And also 还有你说你的 academic 这些 progress. For upper grade students, Yvonne is saying she would like to their academic learning.
So am I hearing add more academic in the, like, add to the learning section?
Yes, add to the learning section.
The academic, the other pieces that would help the parents see the full, well-rounded student. Okay. Anything else, or is this it? Oh, I know what you said. You want to have more, you want to allow creativity in the scoreboards,
Yes.
right? You wanted to open up them to create scoreboards. Was there anything else that was your ideas that you wanted to do? What about the accountability buddies? Was that a good idea for you or not? Was there anything new you wanted to do on the celebration section?
对啊，那就是那个 accountability，就是说，对这个 accountability，这应该我们有没有？
Yeah. We also need to discuss more on this accountability part.
Okay. And was everything else okay? Did celebrations, you like the way you're doing it?
Actually, that might actually lead to our next agenda because we do have like a class celebration, but actually we also have like a whole school celebration, which is our leadership day, and so our student affair director actually has questions on the leadership day because that is our whole school celebration. He has
Okay.
some questions.
Great. I'm ready. Sorry,
Any suggestion of our leadership day event?
You mean from, well, let's see. How do you feel your leadership event is going? How do you feel it is?
你自己觉得你想要做什么？我觉得这个都是自己的要用什么样的方式，觉得想可以呈现，或者说他觉得他做这样子的活动，让自己觉得有价值。对呀，那就是那你
okay, our student affair director is just saying that because we are one of the, actually we are the first lighthouse school, and so we don't have that many examples or model for us to learn from, especially in Taiwan. And so every year we have leadership day. We have like international leadership day. This year we have Mother's Day leadership day. Like each year we have different theme, and but he's saying that he would like you to share what you observe from all around the world, and then give us more ideas and suggestions.
Okay, great. And I've had the opportunity to be at one of your days, which was just lovely. So overwhelmingly, and I've put on here, do you see this module on my screen here?
Yes.
Okay. So if I can ask you all, what do you believe the purpose of a leadership day is in your minds? What's the purpose of it? Besides a celebration, are there any other purposes to that day?
to demonstrate their leadership character.
Great.
Apply it. Yeah.
Excellent. So when you guys reflect on your leadership day, what are all the ways children are empowered to lead?
I think we have, because we have so many leadership roles that the students need to apply before the leadership day, like MC, campus tour guide, usher, many, uh, and our lunch service team. We have many different leadership roles for them to apply before the leadership day, and then they plan on it. They practice with it, rehearse as a whole school, as a big community, and so all these different.
What are you doing? Walking in. I'll be up in front of.
We create these roles and opportunity for them to demonstrate their leadership character.
Okay. Who plans the day?
Can you come over here? This one.
Hi, great. So what we see happening around the world is more like, yes, I can give you ideas of what different things people do, but we see more and more student ownership of the leadership day. Much more student ownership. And I'll give you this example that, that's the key element, is that how the students are involved from beginning to end. How are the children, how do they have a voice before the event, setting the vision, brainstorming the event? How are they involved before? Do they come up with ideas? How are they involved during? And then how are they involved after? So the main piece that we're seeing happening around the world is more and more the children are owning that day from beginning to end. They are.
Okay, leadership day最重要的意义就是说让小朋友学生的从教育中的所以呢，在这个活动开始到进行到结束这一整段都是要有小朋友除了做自己，这是我的事情，叫做我要来做，我要来，我要来执行，我要来结果是这样，这是学生还有这种意识到，这是我的事情。像他念书一样，他不用别人念，他会自己他可以得到充实。我要来这一天的这个活动是要让孩子。OK， 一天这个 celebration 让他知道说，今天是当家的，我可以跟我这一个同学班上的都很好的，我可以跟别人可以借着这一交流。Thank you. Sorry.
No, I want you to, that's okay. I want you to discuss. It's no problem. Because, even it's looking at how you can innovate. The word is innovation. innovate by giving children much more voice in what they believe the leadership day, how could it change? So if you got a committee of students, the older children, helping you plan that day, coming up with ideas, and allowing their creativity to flow, even allowing them to learn project management on it. So taking it beyond just giving roles they can apply for and giving them a deeper opportunity for planning.
Okay. Understand.
Opening creativity.
Have you seen a school applying this, and then how did they do it?
How do they do it?
Yes.
Mm.
How?
Yeah, so sometimes they use the student lighthouse team as the planning committee, and then the adult leader or the adult lighthouse team works with the student lighthouse team to come up with ideas. So they may give them brainstorming, they may have the children brainstorm like this. They may have the children work with the adults and say, let's talk about our leadership day. So start with the children in a plus delta reflection, right? Have the children come to you, have a group of them, and say, what do we do well, and what could we do differently? Having the children participate in making decisions around what should happen on the day. So it's creating a leadership, a committee, whether it's from your student, and a lot of times your student lighthouse team is the one that works well for this, or you allow children to be in a long-term planning committee with you, and they come with ideas. So you could even survey your students and say to all of your children, you could say, what do you like about Leadership Day? What could we do differently? What could be improved to give the children a voice, and say, what ideas do you have? As long as they understand the purpose. So some schools survey the children in the school and the parents to get feedback and ideas. Some schools create a committee.
Understand.
Does that make sense? So, and when I see, it's really, I don't know how else to express it except say what I see happening around the world is children's creativity and the staff members' creativity being unleashed. New and innovative ideas.
Do you see any like ideas that is being applied that really impressed you?
Oh gosh, so many. Let me think. I mean, every time I've gone to leadership days in different parts of the world, I've not, and a lot of times I'm doing lighthouse reviews, but I have seen a lot. Oh, okay, I got a good one for you. So in one country, well, you know what? So many, all leadership days look a little different. So the beauty is, it's me. What I love seeing is the different ideas people come up with. So one that really happened on international days is sharing culture, sharing traditional culture with the international people. So they had the students come up with ways to share the culture. So they did cultural dances, they did cultural shows, they did cultural stations. The children came up, so they charged the children with sharing, what piece of Chinese culture would you like to share? And they made stations that, huh?
Is this from our school? Did you see that in our school?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. We did it.
Well, I saw part of that in your school. I also saw it in Guatemala, and we also saw it in Europe. We also saw it in Europe. So I'm trying to think outside. There's no one way to say what is most impressive to us is when you see the students in charge. When you see the students that have made decisions. Like when I've gone to leadership days and I don't know which adult's in charge. That's when you're really impressed with how well they've transitioned it to the children. Does that make sense? It's like it's taking away the normal formality where adults do certain pieces. And this may not work in your culture, and allowing the children to do everything. So when I've stepped on campuses and the children are doing every piece, they're leading every piece of the way. And I sometimes have had to say, can I meet the principal? Like, who's your principal? I will tell you what, I will think through all of the things I've seen and gather ideas for you to share. Okay? I just need, like off the top of my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, we've seen so many. I will also ask, we'll ask around the globe different interesting ideas that we have seen to share. But no two leadership days have been the same. I'm going through my head, like I'm trying to rack my thinking. You know what's also really impressive during a leadership day? What else is really impressive during a leadership day is when you see evidence of all of the practices of the Leader Me process deeply involved. Another one that's impressive is the depth of evidence and how deeply the children are learning and living the 7 habits. The depth of the application of the 7 habits. So,
what evidence, what evidence did you see so that you know that they are actually applying 7 habits, internalizing?
Yeah, so the one great example came out of Cambodia. I'll see if I have some pictures I can show you. So from the time we entered into the building, the children, they had transformed the environment to have not only 7 habits, but they took the 7 habits to a much deeper level using the paradigms and the practices. And what they did is had stations around this building. They had stations where the children were actually teaching the 7 habits. But not just, this is what proactive means. They had the children, their environmental displays where the children were teaching us the common paradigm, the effective paradigm, and the ineffective paradigm of the 7 habits. And then they were teaching us all about how you live and apply the practices of the habits. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll have to find pictures to give you as well. So a lot of times in schools, we see the 7 habits are at the superficial level where they've taught the habit name, right? Here's this. It's when we see children and educate environments and children that know, hold on, I gotta make this bigger for you. Whoops. When they're teaching, so here's the habit, right? Here are the paradigms for each habit, the principles, the effective practices for the habit, and key concepts. So when we've been in schools where I've seen these paradigms in the environment, and I have seen the deeper effective practices in the environment being used and taught at a deep level. So, example, we had one school that puts, so here's circle of influence, circle of concern, right? That's an important practice that students should know in order how to be proactive. in some schools, they've put this displays into the environment, and the Hi, you there? Sorry about that. So just to pick up from there, I'm not sure why we, so for example, this practice, right? The children taught us the habit by the paradigm, and then they created a big circle on the ground, circle of influence, circle of concern, and they taught us using a game on how to work with the circle of influence, circle of concern. So they applied it much more deeply. Let me see if I can find the picture for you.
You mean the student taught you guys a game, and then I mean the student do a game on the leadership day, and then teach you guys how this game you can learn the circle of influence.
Exactly. Yep. And so what it showed us is that the children understood not just the habit, this part of the habit, they deeply understood that practice. They taught us about the paradigm, and then they created a game to teach us circle of influence, circle of concern.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to find my behavior deck so I can show you a picture. Does that, because a lot of times we're teaching the 7 habits, but we're not teaching down to the paradigm, and we're not teaching all the way into the practices. Are you following what I'm saying? Am I being clear? What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel you are already there?
Let me share some example, and then you can give us feedback and tell us if we are there. Is that okay?
Okay. Sure.
They were saying that, like for example, the cooking class, they are asking the kids to lead adults, teaching the adults how to make cookies. Is that also counted as like,
That's the children.
Yeah, is that also an example?
But how are the children applying the habits in that? How are they showing us? Yeah, it's an example of them demonstrating leadership, right? They're demonstrating leadership. But this is different in saying, how are they teaching the audience about the 7 habits in that activity?
I see. I understand.
What do we learn from them in that? What we see is we see the children cooking and leading and contributing, and they might make a connection with the habit, but it's not teaching the habit itself, the deeper practice of the habit.
So again, it go back to that reflection. So what you're saying is that not only they are teaching it, but then can they reflect all the 7 habits that they're using in this activity or in this lesson?
Yeah, that's one layer, like one layer of a child being able to say, well, when I'm cooking, I'm using synergy because I'm working with someone else to come up with a recipe, right? That's one layer. A deeper layer is saying the practice itself. Like if I say to a child, are you living a Q2 life? Do you know what Q2 is? If I say to a child, do you know what a transition person is? Do you know what are you when you choose to do your homework? Is that what habit are you living? But It's not just that verbal recognition. Oh yeah, I'm using synergy when I work with someone else. That's synergy. That's a low level of using the habits. A deep level is when they have a problem with a friend and they can say, okay, I am not using pause and respond. I'm not stopping and thinking before I act. Right? It's in one building, I'm looking for this picture for you, and this was in Taiwan. The school principal, they drew a pause and respond outside on the ground, and they drew a circle of influence, circle of concern. The children actually built this with stone. It was really beautiful. And when we went to that spot, the children taught us how to use that tool. They said, so for example, when I get upset with a friend and I don't think and I fight with my friend, I'm being reactive. But when I stop and think and make a good choice, then I'm being proactive because I'm thinking about the result I want. It's not about the activity like cooking. It's about how are they learning and internalizing the deeper 7 habits practices, which I'm not sure if every one of your faculty will still remember, right? Because that's part of the learning for faculty as well, is how do we help, if we want to get the highest form of outcomes, right? If we want to really help children be responsible, they need to understand the paradigm and these deeper practices and apply them to their life. That's how we know they're going to gain the social emotional skills.
Okay, so to
I'm going to find this to show you.
correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just trying to
No, please keep asking. This is good.
trying to reinterpret in my own words and see if I'm getting it right. Okay. So basically what you're saying is it's not just the activity itself, but then through this activity, the student is able to analyze their behavior module or their thinking pattern or their emotional reflection, and then they can self-evaluate. Okay, first they can analyze it, and then they can self-evaluate, and then they can reflect on it, and then see if which direction they can make the right choice. If they make the wrong choice this time, they can make the right choice next time because they are able to analyze and then they are able to self-evaluate, and then so they can make better choice next time because they reflect on it and then they make better choice next time.
Right, but they're also telling us what effective practice they're using in that process. So I am going to, here's the one I was showing you, okay? So you can see this here. Circle of influence, circle of concern on the ground. You see that? How they built it into the environment? So what the children what the children were doing with us, they were quizzing us. And they gave us examples and said, jump in or jump out, right? So they said, so if you are late for work because of traffic, is that in your circle of concern or your circle of influence? And our job our job was to make a decision. So they were making a game for us to learn about a practice that's deeper. Here's another example. This is on the ground. This is pause and respond, as you know, right? And the children, this is a video of this little girl demonstrating. I'll show you a little bit of it if you'd like.
She's stimulated because she got into a fight. She's very angry, but she goes to the pause button. With deep breath, calming herself down. And her response is that she feels that she needs to apologize to her friend and to make up.
Yay!
So this is pause and think. So when I'm stimulated, I gotta think what is an appropriate response. Because my response will be based on my thinking rather than based on the stimulus.
Great
This is
job.
and think.
Very nice.
So you can see how the children were teaching us about how they apply the 7 habits at a deeper level. But it's not pause and respond. That is an effective practice inside. Pause and respond is an effective practice within be proactive. Does that give you an idea?
Yes.
Or does that help?
We get it. On top of what I just said, you were adding, on top of what I just said, that the kids is able to analyze, self-evaluate, reflect, but then at the same time, they are being able to identify where they are at and what habit they're, not just what habit they're using, and then how they are using it. And then they are able to teach others to do it.
Yeah, and it's that effective practice within the habit. So this is the habit, but they're saying this is the practice here. So she was doing pause and respond.
Right.
That's what she was teaching. She was choosing to teach us. So that's an example of what we see people starting to do is have the children use leadership day. On their leadership days, having the children also teach more deeply the habits. We also see things like this that, I'll pause.
Yeah. So I think we get it. Basically, it's demonstrating the practice within each habit, and then how we use these practices to apply those habits effectively
In our lives, yeah.
in their life, in their daily situation, in different
Yeah. And in this case, the children came up with these ideas. So the 2 items I just showed you, the children came up with those ideas. The teachers empowered them to come up with an activity, and and then these children came up with this role play. So they were empowered to design the lesson.
Oh, okay. That's wonderful. Amazing.
Yeah, so the educators did not own it at all.
这个是小朋友自己创作出来的。对，小朋友去设计这些教学，设计这个游戏设计，然后去在让别人来的时候教给他们。像他地上画的那这个现在学校就不用这个就是这个就是对，所以也是我们习惯真正要做到的东西。对，因为我们现在就只有这7个口号在消除，但是没有真的生产部分做出来，还有这上面一个孩子跟他特殊的，我们现在看到说到。他不知道自己是什么，对的话，或者是给你一个状况的时候，不知道怎么去，但是他知道自己自闭症是大家都有经历，非常有意思。冰山下面的意思，那个在生的时候，他就更会这样。那他这个很在的背景，他的领导力、能力也好，气质。Thank you. I think we learn a lot, and we are discussing different ideas and
Great.
trying to come up with. We probably need more time to digest and then discuss.
Yeah.
But then now our principal wants to have a question on the content of staff training.
What part do you want? What's the question?
Okay. Currently, we are asking teachers to teach teachers, and then actually, usually once or twice a year, our coach, Ivy, she will also come to give us like half-day training. But other than that, do you have any other suggestion?
And is that in leadership? Is that what the training is about? Is it around, what part is it about? It's about Leader in Me practices? Is it about 7 habits? What are they being trained? Teachers training teachers, and Ivy training you. What's being taught?
The things that you said, actually, we did it before, and then also on top of that, there are and then the teacher will also share how they apply. Senior teacher or returning teacher will also share how they apply leadership program in their classroom as well.
So then my question would be, how are they growing in that model? Where are they getting new ideas and new knowledge from?
Not much.
So I think this is a good topic for us to think about together when we have some time, because ongoing staff learning requires you to renew the 7 habits. Like, what's the last time they went deep in the 7 habits or training on it? Have you been training the 7 habits to the staff since your first time you had it? Often schools that have been in the process for a long time, they may have asked to have the 7 habits trained again. Or we certify in-house trainers in order to help renew that training. We teach them the paradigms and practices directly, which would be new for you, a lot of them in 3.0. Determine structures for staff learning, and then identify resources. So this one here in particular to think about is saying, well, what's the best way for your staff to learn? And who is the best person to help your staff learn? So I think what we have to do together as a team, identify what gaps you have, like what do we need to help your teachers learn more, and then what's the best system to do that. I'll pause so you can translate.
And can you go back to the chart because we can't remember everything.
Sure can, no problem.
Can you say the identify resources part again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, when we say, let me just take a little bit, you through this just a little bit, right? So when we say renew the 7 habits, it's make sure your faculty understands the maturity continuum and why we're doing it, right? Your faculty needs to understand the purpose of the 7 habits is to teach the social emotional skills to children and help them move from dependence to independence to interdependence, that maturity. So when what I was just sharing with you about making sure that the teachers understand the depth of the 7 habits, right? They need to know, your teachers alone, if they're going to live and model the 7 habits, they need to understand the 7 habits very deeply themselves. So when you're looking at resources, resources to say, okay, what are the ways? Okay, here we go. So what are the different resources you have to use to help your staff learn? Well, we have 7 Habits training, that's external training, where you can hire a trainer to come in that speaks your language. You can use the Leader Me Online, though right now it's only in English, but there are many, many, many resources in English. We can certify an in-school trainer. Like we can find someone, one of your faculty members, maybe 2 of your faculty members, and certify them as a 7 Habits trainer for your school so they can go deep. So that's something you need to think about is, so the one thing I really need you to think about deeply is saying, well, how are your teachers learning and renewing their understanding of the 7 Habits? Because they can't teach the children deeply if they don't know the 7 Habits deeply. Does that make sense? So in looking at how long you've been a school is to say, well, how much have you had new teachers come in? How are they being trained? So either you need to hire an outside person to come retrain the 7 Habits, or we need to certify someone in your school to train the 7 Habits. Because a half a day over all of the years, you're going to need to renew. And then the next question, the one thing is to say, do your teachers understand the leadership paradigm? Right? We're going to need to help your teachers learn all of the paradigms. So this is not Miss Ivy's fault, right? She doesn't know all the new content. Right? She doesn't know all the new pieces. And I don't have a way to certify her to be I can't train Ivy to train your school alone. Because, I mean, it won't work for me to try to train one person. So your option is I can help you hire an external person to come in that can really do some retraining with your school. I can coach you only so far because I speak English. I don't speak Chinese, unfortunately. And so I would have to make sure if you bring anyone else in the school that they speak Mandarin for you. But we have a lot to help your faculty learn from learning the paradigms, making sure they're deep in the 7 Habits, and making sure they have the leadership best practices happening in all of your classrooms. So our option is, there's resources that you can use that are primarily in English right now, or we could try to train some people inside your school, or we could hire an outside person to come in that speaks Chinese. So it really depends on what works best and what's allowed in your school.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
I mean, in an ideal world, so, and I don't know that I'm answering your question very well, because right now, if you have teachers training teachers, so no one in the school knows all of the new knowledge. So now I'm going to try to give it to you in order for you to help. But you need an ongoing system of training that allows the newest information. And most importantly, is that they're going deeper in the 7 Habits and 40X, right? Because I don't know how long ago was your last training in 7 Habits?
Last semester, we had IB. For the coach was last semester, but our internal one is a couple weeks ago.
Right. So what are they currently using, and what's the focus of training?
Okay. Last semester, when the coach comes, it's more focusing on what you say, renewing 7 habits, making sure people understand the concept, the maturity. That was the focus last time. But then
Okay.
before the school start, when we have like an in-house, internal, like our own staff sharing workshop, will be more focusing on how teachers apply
Mm.
the 7 habits program. Leader in Me program in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And would you say that your teachers, if we asked any one of your teachers, would they, if you said to a teacher, circle of influence, circle of concern, could they know what habit it goes to or how that effective practice works? Or if I said Q2, quadrant 2, would they know what I'm talking about?
If it's senior teacher, returning teacher, maybe. But then if it's new teacher, not really.
Yeah. So I would say that's our first area to focus on, is to say, okay, you could do a self-study, you could have someone learn in order to teach. Because if you want your children to understand the depth, then we have to get your faculty to understand and learn it. And I think what we should do is on another call, brainstorm more about how we can help you figure out the best system.
Okay.
So I think you have a lot to think about right now, and I'm happy to say, why don't we set up another call time for your other topics so we can go deeper in, and if we put that on our calendars now, I can make sure I reserve that time.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Would you like to set, when would you guys like to meet again? I'm sorry, I can't hear you, hon.
We will discuss about it later and let you know the time as soon as possible if you confirm it.
Okay, great. I really want to really help you come up with a win for what will support your growth over this year. So however many times we want to meet virtually, no problem. We can meet a lot. At the same time, if you decide you need someone who speaks Chinese, let me know. I can work that out. Right? And
That would be great.
right? Okay. So was this enough to start for tonight? For today?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Was it helpful?
Super helpful.
Okay. Please send me messages on any questions, and I will follow up with some notes for you.
Thank you.
And it was lovely. It was great seeing you all. Bye, my friends. Take care.